Great. I'm sorry for the problem. It was some kind of an echo without the headphones. So let's start from the beginning. I would like to introduce myself. But before that, I really want to apologize because last week a lot of teachers were online and waiting, and I had an internet problem. So a lot of people, more than 20, wasted their time, and I'm really sorry for that. So I rescheduled the webinar for this week. As you can see, my name is Milica, and I'm a preschool teacher. I come from Serbia, and I'm currently in my master's studies, where I finished an additional module for teaching the young learners, which means that I'm a preschool teacher, and I also work with children from the 1st grade to the 4th grade. Okay, so to all of you who are present, I would like you to introduce, especially teachers. So can you please write in the comments shortly which ages do you teach and where are you from? While I wait, I will just start the presentation. Please ask me anything you would like to know in the chat box. I will scroll down and we will come back to discuss it. Okay, as I can see, Myra teaches 4th and 6th grade. Okay, this is more for younger grades, but definitely team-based instruction can be applied to any kind of grade. But since you teach 6th grade, you would have to cooperate with your coworkers. We can discuss about it later. Now, the topic I'm going to talk about today is teaching young learners through team-based instruction while also developing 21st century skills. I will start sharing my presentation, and I think that at that point you will stop seeing my face, which is not a problem. It's just how Google Hangouts on their work. So I'm really sorry. It's not a computer problem. You will just see the presentation and just hear me. Okay, stop sharing, present to everyone. Okay. You should see my presentation now. So please quickly write in the chat if everything is working and if you can see the presentation on your screen. We'll just wait for a second since that is really, really important. Okay, thank you. Thank you. So let's start. The topic today is a short review of a research I wrote with my colleague at our university, and the research should be published in a journal in the end of this year. And it involves not only 21st century skills, it also involves a short section of multiple intelligence theory. We're going to spend about 20 minutes, 20-ish minutes, maybe 30, discussing the theory. And after that, we're going to go to the practical part, and we're going to analyze some activities. And I will also share with you lesson plans, and we will watch a National Geographic certification video, which is a pretty short summary of the activity that I've done using team-based instruction. Now, in order to, since we had some problems, I already introduced myself, and we can go to the first part. The question is, what is innovative education? Innovative education is something which is really hard to achieve sometimes, because we usually think that innovation only happens if you use technology. But no, innovative teaching presents a bridge between theory and practice. So basically, in order to teach good, we really need to know a lot of theory. And we need to know which theories fit our class and which theories fit our teaching methods. So we need to create something that is good for our classroom. There is no textbook that can help us there, only practice. The next question is, in which aspects of education Can innovation be applied? Well, that's a pretty simple question. Innovation can be applied in many aspects, from material development, which is team-based instruction, innovation in the learner's classroom, which is some kind of a technological classroom management innovation, and in the end, innovation can happen in assessment, which is very, very important in the 21st century. For this innovation to happen, teachers must educate themselves, which is why we started our research with this premise. We created a framework. We combined 21st century skills in teachers, which ultimately create team-based instruction lessons, and using multiple intelligence theory to just select appropriate materials. In the end, we have team-based instruction, and we have the skills developed in students with little to no effort. Altogether, all of this is 21st century of education. Now, we will go to 21st century skills in teachers really shortly. And I would like to ask you, what do you think? What are crucial teacher competences in the 21st century classroom? What would you say? What is the competence that every teacher has to have in this century? Okay, while we're thinking, I will go to the next part and I will check on the comments later. In order to be a 21st century educator, we need to be trainers, mentors, coaches, observers, evaluators, and facilitators. What you don't notice here is that we are not the center of the classroom. So 21st century educators are observers. We give materials to the students and we observe them. We don't just teach for the sake of teaching. We make them collaborate, communicate, which are 21st century skills in students. Roles of the teacher in the 21st century is reflecting upon their lesson design, which means not any lesson is ever over. So we can always come back and revisit and revise and create new parts of our old team-based activities. This is why team-based instruction is very, very good, because we can always come back. We have to be communication with students, parents, and colleagues, which is a big problem in our country. As I mentioned, I come from Serbia, and colleagues are not very happy to share their knowledge and lesson materials. The next part is collecting feedback. Collecting feedback can be hard, and we need to ask not just teachers. First of all, we need to ask students. After each team-based lesson, after 5 team-based lessons, usually we have 5 lessons in one area, we should ask students, what do they think? What do they like? What was hard? What was easy? And try to improve it next time when we organized team-based lessons. Now, what I just said, classroom is predominantly learner-centered. So the learner is in the center of the classroom, not the teacher. The teacher is not teaching. The teacher is co-teaching and co-learning together with the students. Now, usually we have different kinds of teacher education, and we have pre-service and in-service. So pre-service is of course pre-service is of course your university and every kind of certified education. In-service teacher education are all the professional developments, webinars, conferences, and everything you do is in-service teacher education. We have a quote here, and Mr. Battle states that one of the biggest myths around teacher education is that once teacher is qualified, that is it, they are done. We can completely agree that this is so not true. We need to continue learning. And from what I see from my colleagues in my university, in-service education is not happening. In-service education is forced, and nobody is really thinking about a webinar and trying to really apply what they are learning. Now, since we established the type of the classroom, And since we established teacher roles, we can go to student competences. Student competences are the list of student competences is practically endless because there are a lot of frameworks which are set out there and they're constantly in development. The methodology and the theory is constantly revised. So we've taken the biggest four, which are the 4 C's. The first one is communication. The second one is, of course, collaboration, which ultimately leads to creativity, but not creativity in sense of crafting, creativity in creative thinking, which finally nurtures the students into critical thinking. And last but not least, we added something which is not in the 4C. In our research, we put an emphasis on learner autonomy because this is, in the end, a local research. And in our country, students do not know how to learn by themselves. So this is a big problem because when the lesson stops, the learners stop learning. They do not know how to do anything by themselves. This is why we added learning autonomy as a final goal of the 21st century skills. These are very important because we develop these skills very easy through team-based instruction. It's almost impossible to create a CLIL lesson, content integrated language learning lesson, without communicating, collaborating, and thinking in different kinds of ways. We're going to go through the skills shortly, and we're going to list some activities along with what is the teacher role and what is the student role. Last week, I've had some teachers who were teaching online, but I'm not sure that they're present now because we rescheduled. So please tell me if any of you is teaching online currently. Okay, based on your answer, I can see that no teachers are teaching online, so we don't have to discuss this aspect of team-based instruction because it's a little different. Okay, we have one online tutor and one tutor which is not who is not an online tutor. Okay, so we're going to touch both things, but we're mostly going to concentrate on schoolwork. So let's go to the first one, which is communication. First of all, how can we define 21st century communication? It is not just chatting. It is not just exchanging information. 21st century communication, of course, starts from sharing information, but it's also about expressing thoughts and opinions. It is also about listening, using different kinds of means of communication, which doesn't usually happen in a lesson which strictly follows the textbook. Of course, there are little chats in the end of every page where students role play, but that's it. This is where it ends. Of course, overcoming cultural and language differences is super, super important. And we're going to see that when we analyzed my lesson plan, because cultural and language differences are very, very easy to present when you can include different kinds of subjects as geography, history, or ultimately different languages. In order to have a real communicative classroom, we have to have a collaboration setting which connects to the next skill. And also, in the end, we need to focus on the dialogue. We are not going to focus on every single mistake the students make, because this is not team-based instruction. In team-based instruction, we focus on the content. We don't focus on the form. And examples of some activities are information gap activities, role play activities, interviews, surveys done by students, of course, writing notes, letters and texts to each other, pair work, show and tell activities, discussions on school intranet, and much more. In my experience, students never do interviews, never do surveys, and they don't write notes. They usually just copy paste from the Blackboard, which is personally terrible. I think it's not a very useful way to study. and also letters and text to each other, which implies that we're going to have some classroom collaboration, which is easy on the internet. Now, we will go to the next 21st century student skill, which is collaboration. In collaborative activities, teachers have a very specific role. They are moderators, they are observers, and that is where their function ends. You should not meddle into a group of students talking. Even if they start using the native language, we should just let them think, and we should just let them collaborate peacefully. I think this is a problem for older teachers. Many of them can't relax. Many of them don't believe that the students are capable in peer learning without their explicit help. So in collaborative activities, in team-based instruction, explicit help and guided activities are reserved for only grammar sections and sometimes when we want to teach new grammar. Now, what are students doing? They're active participants. They have roles and they are peer teachers. It is best if we can separate groups to create peer teacher learning, but sometimes it's not important. It's important that everybody is active in its own way. Collaborative activities are drama, role play, competitive team games, project work. Project work is extremely important because every team-based lesson needs to have project work. It's basically connected. Then presentation, blog posting, discussion, debates, again, interviews, and storytelling. Storytelling is maybe harder to achieve in younger grades, but for Myra and for teachers who teach older students, like 6th, 5th grade, storytelling can be amazing, and it can also be used. It can also be used in many situations. You don't have to just tell a story. You can use it for conservation. You can use it for talking about a climate change and many things. Next, after the collaboration, we're going to have creativity or creative thinking, which is a big difference. It's very much different from just crafting. Creativity and thinking is the ability to brainstorm ideas, to think about things from a new perspective or think outside the box, just like I said. And the biggest, most important part is to solve a problem with a sustainable and a creative solution. We will see that in my lesson later because we organized a chat with some children from Egypt, and we discussed the topic of river pollution. We compared Serbia with Nile, and in the end, we also used creative pictures from National Geographic to just create a sustainable solution. How can we stop so much plastic, using so much plastic in our schools? Which was ultimately a very creative solution, and it was perfectly sustainable. It also requires a certain amount of knowledge and proper tools given by a teacher. This is why it's really important that a teacher can use the 21st century educator skills, because if the teacher does not give a model, if the teacher does not explain, team-based instruction lessons can be very hard for young learners. This is why we need to follow the curriculum. We need, as English teachers, we need to follow the curriculum of other subjects. We need to cooperate with other teachers, and we need to wait until they're finished with a certain topic so that we can introduce it into our English lesson. In the end, creativity, is it an innate quality? And is it not something that can be learned? This is a question that a lot of people ask, and of course, we can say that it is. Creativity can be nurtured. Creativity in learning is something that we can encourage, something that we can motivate, and we can learn from past mistakes. So, in the end, all the teachers who think that the children are born creative, we can definitely say that it is not an innate quality. It is a learned quality. Creative activities include cutting and making, but not for the sake of crafting, just for the sake of art, but for the sake of using this material in a debate or anything that is connected to the topic. Acting out dialogues and mini plays, which children love. For example, we had a lesson where we practiced writing and acting out a dialogue for Thanksgiving. And in the dialogue, children had different roles, which ultimately made them learn so much about Thanksgiving without reading any kind of text except their dialogue mini play. Solving puzzles or following a treasure map. Treasure map is a very, very, very interesting activity for them. They were basically falling down everywhere, running to find the treasure. Making a video. Again, if you're a teacher who is into incorporating ECT, it's very good for you to do it. But in Serbia, we do not have computers in most of the classrooms. So we are left on our own. We are left to take the computer to the classroom if we want. And it's not very possible for us to include a lot of ICT, which is a shame, in my opinion. Now, the last one is critical thinking, the last C. As you know, this is Bloom's taxonomy, and it is really important because it definitely supports team-based learning. Since in the end we have creating, evaluating, and analyzing, while most of the textbook lessons just include remembering and understanding, and sometimes applying, but it is not the knowledge gained in new ways. They are applying it for the sake of the language. It is not context application. It is just informational applying. And by using critical thinking and by creating, by creating sustainable solutions and thinking critically, we can have a perfectly great 21st century classroom. This is nothing new. This is not a new invented skill, but what makes it different, as you can see in this quote, this little twist, is the availability of technologies for assessing, manipulating, creating, analyzing, managing, storing. So we have so many things. We have Class Dojo, we have Edmondo, we have so many LMS, so many websites which we can use for student and teacher communication outside of the classroom. Some activities which you can use are looking at a picture and making guesses, which is extremely good to do with the National Geographic books. They have amazing pictures. Of course, it's easy for them to use pictures from all over the world. They are pretty expensive, but I think you can maybe find them online or borrow from other teachers. The ones that I use the most are Our World Edition. It goes from the first grade to the, I think, fourth grade. And then it becomes Little Explorers. I'm not sure. I don't want to lie to you because I don't work with such older learners. So you can check it out. Ranking things, using puzzles, matching things, identifying opinions, thinking about the moral of the message, and relating a text to a personal experience. These skills are something that you can use basically. You can use it with any kind of material. Basically, you can do all of this with just one picture. If you have one picture with people doing something, you can make guesses, you can rank, you can match, you can identify opinion, many things with just one picture. The last one, which is really not developed in my country, is learner autonomy. As I said in the beginning, learner autonomy is really, really important because if we don't develop learning style in our learners, we're not going to be able to teach them anything new. Learner autonomy consists out of post-method pedagogy and post-method learners, ultimately post-method teachers. Post-method learners need to learn different learning strategies. They need to use them. For example, if a child asks you to simply tell him the translation, this is not going to develop your child's autonomy. This is not going to help your child. if we go to the next one, we can see that we need to develop their strategies to communication. You can notice that all of these things are completely connected, and it's basically like repeating one thing the same things all over again. Okay, sorry, it just kind of stopped. When we go to post-meta teachers, this is where the problem appears, because they need to act autonomously within the academic restrictions, which means that teachers should not be the slaves to the textbook. If the teachers are slaves to the textbook, okay, I'm just checking if the presentation is working, I'm sorry. If the teachers become attached to the textbook, they do not have space to insert many things, and this is where the restrictions come. Teachers don't want to waste their time on planning team-based lessons, and they think that nobody is going to appreciate, which is their teaching institution. They're not going to be paid more. They are not going to achieve anything except active learning and deep, maybe professional satisfaction, which is for me is enough, but for some teachers is not. What is really important is to develop your own methods. As I said in the beginning, there is no textbook. You need to create your own eclectic methods. So I like to use project-based learning in team-based instruction. I like to use, for example, communicative grammar learning, which means that I find a text and then we identify the grammar in the text. I don't teach the grammar explicitly. This is what I enjoy to do. I like to use a lot of technology, educative games, especially when I work on the internet. And this is my eclectic method, and you need to create your own in order to be a post-meta teacher. And this connects to the last one. We need to continue developing ourselves. Now, I would like to skip this part. I'm not sure that we have enough time to discuss it. I will just reflect on it very, very, very shortly. Our research includes effective usage of multiple intelligence theory. We're not going to go into the deep theoretical talking now. We're just going to revise what they are. Every student has all the kinds of intelligences. There are 9 of them, and we all possess them. By using activities to develop communication, collaboration, critical thinking, by using team-based instruction, we can develop all of these types of intelligences, because team-based instruction opens so many doors. We can read a book, we can do storytelling, we can sing. There is no end to what we can do, and we will see that when we analyze the activities. We used this framework in our research because it was a way to introduce different kind of materials. Using the multiple intelligence theory, you can step back, take a look at your activities and say, it is lacking spatial perspective. It is lacking kinesthetic perspective. My students are not touching anything. Or if you go to the musical intelligence, you can notice what is missing in your lesson, incorporate it, because team-based instruction allows you to do anything you want. Finally, we can go to our content integrated language learning. Someone asked me in the British Council last week, what is CLIL? So I try to explain as simple as possible. This is basically learning English through different subjects. It's the most easy way to say it. The goals of CLIL, the goals of content integrated language learning, is to be able to communicate, but not just communicate as in a daily communication, to be able to communicate about important things, about things that surround us, about our context of our lifestyle and everything. We need to develop intercultural competences, which in the end become collective knowledge of any learner. So content language learning really develops this holistic learning, because we connect. We just connect everything that we know. Today I had a lesson with one of my very, very anxious students from Russia before this before this presentation, and we studied Egypt, and we learned a lot of words without even noticing, and we actually learned how to make a mummy, which to many parents can sound terrible, but it was really fun. He enjoyed it, and he talked 70% of the lesson. I was just asking him questions and pushing him in the right direction. This is not something which you can do maybe in every classroom, but for online teachers, basically, not there is no limit. There are no limits. What are the flaws and inconsistencies in developing a CLIL curriculum? It is hard. Let's not lie to ourselves. It is really, really hard. Usual team-based lesson, which follows content-integrated language learning, has minimum 3 to 5 lessons, which means that you have to spend at least minimum 3 hours on planning one lesson. If you multiply it with 5, that is basically 15 hours of just planning one lesson. Many teachers don't have the time to do it. But trust me, when you start doing it with time, it becomes easy. You stop thinking about it. The flaws are lacking proper training for using innovative methods. Again, this is a problem in Serbia. This is a problem in Serbia because I don't want to talk bad about my colleagues, but this is just the kind of education that we are getting. We are test takers. We are not reflective, practical teachers. We are just test takers. Now I see Myra's message. I checked the chat, and she says, I am a slave to textbooks. And I can tell you, that's okay. I'm not judging you. This is normal. I think we're all tired sometimes, and usually we get teacher burnout at least one time a month, especially in my case. But you can use the textbook. If you have Halloween, usually you can connect it. For example, in Mexico, you also have Dia de los Muertos, right? Because you said you're from Mexico, I think. Yes. So you can easily connect it. You can use the textbook. So the textbook can be your basis. You do not have to pull the lesson from your sleeve and make it from scratch. You can use what you have in the book, but also feel free to skip something. Feel free to skip what you feel is boring. Is also boring for your students. What do you think is not useful? It's definitely not useful. You are the professional here. So feel free to use the book to just expand it. You don't even have to plan anything. Just try to connect it with different materials. This is the advice I can give you. Now, of course, incorporating ECT in the lesson delivery is really, really important. But since we are a poor country, we don't have computers, so teachers bring it to the classroom, and it's still working. Teaching autonomy is teaching and being able to understand if your lesson is good or bad, being able to reflect, which takes a lot of time. It was hard for me in the beginning, but now it's not very hard, because you should just leave your team-based lesson. Leave it, put it to sleep for about a week, 2 weeks. After 2 weeks, when you come back, you will see something that is terrible. You will see so many mistakes, and you will probably get disappointed in yourself, but you should be happy because you see your mistakes. And after some time, I just started seeing my mistakes instantly, and I think I'm pretty close to being an autonomous teacher, although I still think that I need a lot of time, a lot of studying, a lot of experience. Strict following of the class book, we already discussed it, and I'm happy that I gave you a good advice. It works for me, so good luck in trying to improve your teaching. Now, this is again connected to the following of the class book. Many teachers are afraid that if you don't follow the class book, you're not going to accomplish learning outcomes. Learning outcomes come in the standard. They're different, but they're the same for every country. So in the end of the grade 1, my students need to know this, and that. They need to know present simple. They need to know greetings. They need to know close. They need to know simple orientation. But what doesn't say in the learning outcomes, in the learning standard, is how. You don't see any kind of restrictions. So even if you start using something outside of your class book, many teachers are going to try to put you down, but you just need to follow your own teaching methods and just make sure that you are meeting the outcomes. If you're meeting the outcomes, your teaching is good. And that would be it for the introduction. Now, this is more for beginners. We will go through it quickly. These are steps which need to be followed. Select the topic. Choose a text, extract the topic from the text. So you can do it either way, and whatever you do is perfectly fine. You can select the topic and then look for materials. Or you can go through the textbook, find the topic, and just expand it. You need to identify language focus. So even though we are working to understand new contents, we need to have some language focus. We need to practice language structures. Identifying content objectives, which can come from the topic or it can come later. Learning strategies. Learning strategies are, just like we said, they present how the students are going to collaborate, how are they going to communicate, and what methods are you going to do. Personally, the best thing to do is to use project-based learning and storytelling as much as possible. If you use project-based learning, if you make a project, it's going to be one full lesson. You can do so much listed talking. You can elicit grammar. You can do a lot of things through project-based learning. Also, storytelling. Find the text in the book. If you're, for example, doing clothes, it's not a problem. Just Google any kind of book. Make an introduction with the parts from the book, identify basic vocabulary, and then go to reading the book. It can be a guided reading. You can read together. You can read in pairs. You can do choral reading, whatever is close to your reading level of the students in the class. But basically, sky is the limit. You can do everything. The most important thing is to sequence the activities in the unit. So you need to have a good scaffolding. It happened to me that I put some activities in the lesson number 3, which should be put in the lesson number 5. And I was shocked. Why is this activity here? Why, this is a revision activity. This is an assessment activity. It should not be in the lesson 3. So you just need to be very, very careful with that, because you can get lost in the content. If you start from the content, there is so much vocabulary. And we know that students usually remember maybe 5 words per class. So we need to not get lost into content. Now we have a little quote, and these are 4 C's of an effective CLIL lesson. Content from a specific subject, communication as a means of learning, cognition and developing thinking skills, cultural awareness. Basically, we can conclude that content integrated language learning is the teaching method of 21st century. This is the most innovative most innovation that we can apply in our classrooms. Of course, blended learning. Blended learning is also very good, but it's just one little part of content integrated language learning. So basically, this is as best as it gets. I pasted the link here. These are effective lesson planning stages. You will get a presentation after, you'll get a PPT after the webinar is over. It's an article in where I wrote in detail, section by section, warm up, practice, assessment, follow up. We listed every part of the lesson, and we added sorry, I added some example activities. So make sure to click that. It's pretty detailed. Now, I want to ask you, what do you think about contextualized language learning? What are the biggest obstacles that you have when you teach your students? I will wait for a moment until you think about it. As you think, and as you write, I will just share my problems. So the biggest problem number one, is the lack of time. The lack of time is a big problem. This is why you need to have a big collection of materials. So be prepared to use many kind of materials from the internet, so that you don't create the lesson from scratch. You can use, of course, you can use Scratch. Scratch is an interactive website where you can make video games, but it takes a lot of time as well. You can use many resources from National Geographic Kids. There are so many websites which offer nice worksheets, but just make sure to check them. Don't just download it and just take it to your lesson without thoroughly checking if the worksheet is okay. The second problem I have is that other teachers, other teachers disrespect you. Other teachers try to put you down and try to make you feel like all of your work is useless. So why should I do that? I'm not paid for that. I have a perfectly good textbook. I don't want to go to that webinar because I'm not going to get professional development points. I can just get a certificate. I don't need it if I don't get points. So for me, this is the biggest problem, because everybody is just looking at it through financial perspective, and it's really not important for me. As I see the comments, willingness to learn, disposition time, and so many books, no computers in class. I hear you. I agree with you. There are a lot of things in the curriculum, too many things, and this is the problem. It should be shortened in order to achieve deep learning. We are forced to just shove the information into children's minds without without simply having the time to repeat it properly. And also, no computers in class. Well, I just bring my laptop. That's the best thing you can do. Also, since if you have 30 students, most of the teachers have from 25 to 30 in poor countries such as my country, you can create do-it-yourself projector. Just go on YouTube, and you can make it very easy with just a lens and a shoebox, and you can put your phone and play video to your students. So no computer in class can be avoided in some situations. So you can still fix this problem. And having to finish books and principals' expectations. Well, this is where communicating with colleagues comes in place. So if you apply team-based instruction to your class for about 6 months, and then you can just call your principal and demonstrate all of the things that children have learned, he or she will be amazed that, and I assure you that your children will know to speak much better than the children who strictly follow the textbook, because they will communicate a lot. So I think you can meet principals' expectations, but the problem is that we need to add blended learning. So we need to have our students ready before the class. You can use some applications. There are a lot of apps. For example, you can use Class Dojo. If you want, I can just paste the links into the chat box later. You need to use classroom management apps. Children love using apps. Send them some kind of video, and then they will come to class and they will give you a summary, what I watched. So in order to finish the books, you need to find innovative ways to make them do it a little by themselves. so you do not have to spoon feed them to everything in the book. I often have problems in communication with my students. Sorry, I just started reading because it popped out. They are shy. They just don't shut down. They do not want to discuss any topics. Well, it's not going to work every time. There is no perfect teaching. We are all still learning how to teach. So if you have such a big communication and you said that you're an online teacher, you should definitely just tell your students to turn off your camera. Turn off your camera. The students should turn off their camera as well. Talk just with audio. Let the student talk about whatever he or she wants. Make them send you pictures. Make them choose the material. You can do it as an online teacher. So give the students a chance to choose the material. You can do that in the classroom as well. Bring 5 articles, print them out, and just do a survey. Make students interview each other to see what do they want to use. And in this way, basically, they chose the material and you already spent 1 hour doing that and learned a lot of things. So just try to change the learning classroom when it comes to online learning. Turn off your camera and change the topic, change the materials. Now, we started 7 minutes late, so we still have time. And I would like to go to specific team-based instruction parts. First is demonstration. These are some activities which you can easily use. And demonstration is very, very simple. You can present flashcards, realia or real objects, and use them for the warm-up phase. You can make a problem situation, for example. Oh my God, I lost all of the things that I had. My flashcards are mixed up. This is an old lesson and a new lesson. Can you please help me? Let's find the words that we don't know, because this is our new lesson. And this is what I did with Christmas and Halloween theme-based lesson. And you will get it after the class. You will get these lesson plans. And the students were so happy. Wow, we are helping the teacher. Teacher needs to start the lesson, and we need to help her sort out the materials. The students will give you information, and this is how we have very, very active learning. The next part in team-based instruction is multimedia. Again, if we don't have the computers, it is really, really hard to achieve it. But we need to keep trying. We shouldn't give up in any way. We need to share videos with them, or passages, or audio podcasts. And it's crucial that they are authentic. We shouldn't just use texts from the book, because they're often very shortened. They do not present the real context. Again, if you don't have computers, they make the most of use from the cell phones. Every student has a cell phone. Even if they don't have Androids, they can pair up and they can watch a video. They can listen to an audio on their phone. So try to go around not having the computer. Next one is nothing new. It is simply worksheets and language games. Gamification is really popular, but it's a whole other topic. When it comes to worksheets, you should try to make them interactive. So basically, you can use the ones which exist, and we have them on National Geographic, which is like fill the gap worksheet, and it is done on the internet. And again, the kids can do it on their phones. You don't need a touch screen or a board or whatever. Grammar and use, again, using the grammar in context. Take the text, tell them to underline, maybe something, a word, a verb in present continuous. Don't tell them it's present continuous. Give them the form on the table, on the blackboard, sorry. Give them the form. They will find it, they will analyze it, and after that, you can easily use it to talk. So you don't need explicit guided grammar materials in order to learn grammar properly. Task completion is really important, and it happens in the end of project-based activities. For example, you will create a city, you will create a town, a model of a town, and you will be so motivated because you created something amazing. And you're also going to use recycled materials, which connects to ecology. So basically, whatever you do, it's completely it's easy to connect it to other topics. And we finish with projects. We don't have time to read the detailed codes, but this is exactly what I just said. We need to integrate stories, games, projects. This is it. I'm really sorry. This is a reminder for my lesson, which happens in about 30 minutes. Let me just turn it off. Okay, let's go to the next part. In order to just understand, we are going to repeat what is innovative education. Innovative education combines 21st century skills, team-based instruction, and different kind of materials. It sounds hard, but believe me, it's really not hard when you separate it. Now, we have about 10 plus minutes. We're quickly going to analyze some activities. And I would like to share the video with you, but unfortunately, we cannot share the sound of the activity. So I can share the video, but I will have to tell you to narrate it as we go. Okay, give me a second to share. Stop presenting. I will share. Okay, you can see me for a second there. Where is the share button? I will share my National Geographic certification capstone, and we will just watch this video for a second. Okay, you should be able to see it now. I think I'm just checking if you can see it. Yes, this is it. We're going to watch the video. The topic is pollution and plastic pollution in the water. If we go here, of course, you will get a link. You can download the complete detailed lesson plan. We're going to watch a summary, which is created in a video, and I'm quickly going to narrate it to you. Okay. As you can see, the topic is Plastic Planet, and all the videos are authentic. We went out and we explored. We had an outdoor lesson, and it was pretty easy. The children loved it. We're going to start from the first lesson, and you're going to see a really short summary of what we did. As you can see, okay, I can skip this introduction of my project. Now, as you can see, the first part. Okay, lesson number 1. Sorry, let me just go to unit 1. Okay. In the unit 1, we had an introduction. We started with flashcards, and we used the SWAY presentation. SWAY presentations are pretty cool. Children love them. They're super interactive. You can click on the link in the lesson plan to see how to make a SWAY presentation. Then we reused a shopping list, which is a board game. So find a way to reuse what you already have in your classroom. This is a shopping list game where you can decide what is important and what you don't need. We reuse that for a debate. We sorted out what we need. We sorted out what can be bought without plastic. Of course, we talked in English, and it was a mix of students in the 3rd and 4th grade. So it was a mixed class. We sorted it out and started a debate, which is an amazing recycling. So make sure to recycle your materials. After it, we had a debate. And the question was, do we really need it? In the end, we used a recycle roundup game where we sorted out the garbage. The children loved it. It was amazing. And we could use the computers to practically do something. Homework, as I said, blended learning. We used homework. We sent the homework on their emails, their phones, and they were doing a project work with their family. They should measure and collect plastic garbage in their homes and make report, bring it to the class, present it, and discuss. By doing this kind of blended homework project thing, we introduced so many things, and we practiced so many skills, and the students loved it. It had a very big impact. So in team-based instruction, it's most important to give them the freedom to do something by themselves. We can go to the next one. This was basically one lesson plus homework. The second one was outdoor lesson to the Danube. I created a map, a pirate map. We searched it to find our lesson place. The children kept asking, "What's the treasure? What's the treasure?" And the treasure was actually beautiful, not polluted place next to the Danube, which some of them understood, some of them didn't. We did some experiments. So these experiments show the level of bacteria in tap water and in Danube water. My point is, don't be afraid to do experiments. Don't be afraid to include science in your English lesson. STEM is something that is really not so hard to introduce these days. If you don't have ideas, go to Pinterest, just search what kind of experiment can you do, and the children will definitely love it. So introduce experiments in your team-based lessons. The children were shocked, of course, by the results. And after that, we had research on the stream. We had a worksheet, and the children had tasks. They were supposed to go or run everywhere, see different things. For example, they were supposed to find signs of animals, signs of humans, signs of plants. We also measured the water. We described the river. And we did something which is in National Geographic very important, which is orientation. And orientation is also very present in the logic or mathematical skills in multiple intelligence. So it's all very, very connected. And the children explored by themselves. Of course, we measured the temperature, and we talked in English. We climbed some trees, and we came back home. It was great, and it passed so fast. We spent 2 hours outside, and we were tired, and we learned so much. We learned much better outside than in the classroom. To conclude, the last part, we filled a map. We filled the map with the Danube Basin, just to see geographically where are we, what are we, where are we located. You can find these maps easily online. Then we played a game. So this is where we include kinesthetic or bodily activities. We played a game which is called Trash Flow. We lined up as the countries where Danube flows by practice, and we also practiced communication, collaboration with this kind of activity. And we just pretended to be rain, and we imagined how, through which countries will all this trash flow. And it was amazing. The children were confused and shocked, and they liked it all at the same time. And it's really not that hard to organize. You just need a couple of papers for the countries. The last part was chatting. So you need to go on Microsoft for Education, try open classrooms, try to find any teachers who are interested in creating an open classroom. This was easy for me because I'm an online teacher, but you can go to, as I said, Microsoft for Education and find teachers who are available for classroom collaboration. In the end, after all of this, we made an assessment by creating garbage reduction checklist. So we everything that we learned in these 3 lessons, we used to create a list on reducing the garbage in the school. This is not a formal assessment. This is informal assessment, which puts the learning to a practical situation. And some teachers are scared of informal assessment, but don't be. You can have formative, summative assessments in the end of the year, in the end of the month. You can create fun tests for grammar. So don't worry, the children are not going to learn less if you don't give them a formative and summative tests. For now, I think this would be it. We have about 4 to 5 minutes to discuss and chat. So there were not so many teachers here as last time, which is again my fault. I'm deeply sorry. I'm here and I'm ready to answer any questions that you have. If you want me to paste any websites, if you have any more questions about National Geographic and anything at all about team-based learning, about materials and planning. So ask away. While you ask away, I will send you a questionnaire in the chat, which is important to me as a young researcher. It's really short, basically 1 page. When you fill it, you will get the lesson materials and you will get a certificate and you will get all of it. So I pasted in the chat. You can fill it later. I can see that there are no questions. Okay. Yes, it's getting now the link. Okay. If there are, oh, thank you. Okay. Myra says, I would like to congratulate you. Thank you very much. I was nervous, made a lot of grammar mistakes, but it was good. I will send you Class Dojo. It's for younger students, so maybe your students are not going to like it. What I can do is send you links to my blog, because I compared different kinds of websites you can use. Okay, I will send it. And also the Sway presentation is linked. The Sway presentation is linked in the lesson material. So please finish. No, I will send it to you because it may be harder for you to find. You have, when you finish the questionnaire, you will get 8 lesson plans, 5 for Halloween and Christmas, and 3 from National Geographic. I will send you the link. Now, Natalie said, I want some games for my lessons with younger learners, 5 to 8. A lot of them are from Asia. Do you have any suggestions? Okay, so it would be easy to just create a game on the spot. If you're doing colors, if you're doing numbers, just take a look at a room. Let's count this, let's count that. Make them, you can also play guessing games. You can play a lot of guessing games. You can play a lot of TPR games. Just share your sound. Play a song and then learn the lyrics through your body. For example, you have pretty good songs. What's the weather? What's the weather? Okay, wait a second. What's the weather? What's the weather song is very good because you can show with your body. So try to use TPR. Try to use your body in order to learn some songs, because in the end, all the kids love to learn songs, and it's a never-ending game that you can use. For example, here is one song. And I will send you one more link where we have Joan Shin. Joan K. Shin teaching us how to scaffold songs. Joan K. Shin, sorry, just let me remember while we are still here. Peanut butter. Peanut butter and jelly song. So she showed us how to use song scaffolding, which is amazing in team-based instruction. This is a link where she explains how to teach songs in detail. Now, I would like to thank you for being here again, and I don't know. Sorry for the last time, and I hope to see you again. Please stay online. I will send you the links in about 3 minutes. See you. Have a great day. Bye.